Thank you, Melissa. Yes, I don't know about Thunder, but I am a trade manager here at EDPNC. Been here about a year, and I cover the industries of furniture, textiles, wood products, agribusiness, and personal care products. So I'm very happy to be here. I am a licensed customs broker, and it's part of the brokerage exam. You have to know about carnets, at least have to be able to refer to the customs regs and answer the questions since it's an open book exam. But I'm very excited today to have the true Carnet expert with us. That's Kelly Milianti from the Roanoke Group. She's an ATA Carnet manager. And what we're hoping is that this is going to be an open conversation. Those who have considered it, if you want to talk about your products and you're comfortable sharing your specific scenario, please feel free to do so, or hypothetical questions as they come up. So with that, I'll hand it to you, Kelly.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly. I work for Roanoke Insurance Group. I started in the Carnet department as a customer service representative, and now I am the Carnet manager. I've been with Roanoke for 19 years. I'm very excited to do this presentation with you guys because I know a lot of people do not know what an ATA Carnet is and can definitely benefit from it. So, yeah, I'm really excited to talk about the Carnet. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, and we can get started with the presentation. All right, so
we practiced this before, so we should be good. All right, awesome.
Everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. So we're going to start with what is an ATA Carnet? So an ATA Carnet is an international customs document that allows temporary entry of items duty and tax-free. It's known as the passport for goods. What are the benefits of the ATA Carnet? It reduces cost. It's arranged and it's in the US. It can be used as a US registration. Split and partial shipments are acceptable on a carnet, which we'll get into more detail on that later in the presentation. The carnet is valid for 1 year and it can be used multiple times throughout the year.
Kelly, I'm sorry, can you go back a moment? Sure. What do you mean it can be used as a US registration?
So let's say, and I'll cover this in the presentation later, but we can talk about it now. So let's say, for example, the goods are going into a non-carnet country. And just to make clearance easier on the US side, it could be used just to leave and enter back into the US.
Got it. Thank you.
So no problem. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I do have that as well in the presentation. Okay, what can go on an ATA Carnet? Commercial samples. So for example, fashion garments, jewelry. So we have, let's say, for example, there's a fashion show in Italy. They can take their garments, to the show. If there is a jewelry show, they can take that. Professional equipment, tools of the trade, electronics. So let's say, for example, you're taking a medical device for testing into a foreign country, and then you're bringing it back into the US. So you can use the carnet for that. And then exhibitions and fairs, trade shows, taking your items to a show to, show off to the clients. World events, so like the news will take like their camera equipment, and like the one that is real big that we use is band equipment. We have a specific client who works specifically with bands, so they take their tour equipment, so lighting, their instruments, anything that they need for the band, they take it to the foreign country and then they bring it back. Are there any questions on this? Okay. Items that are not covered on an ATA Carnet, and this is important for trade shows. So if you have any giveaways, you cannot put that on a Carnet. Consumables. So anything that has, let's say, for example, if you're taking liquid, bottles of perfume, if you plan on using that perfume, you can't use that on a carnet. Disposable items, postal traffic, personal vehicles. So that means if you're just taking your vehicle into a foreign country just to drive around on like vacation, you can't use that on an ATA Carnet. You cannot have any substantial transformation. So nothing can be changed on the goods. So the way that it leaves the US, it has to return back to the US exactly the same. So no repairs or replacements. So if there's a part that's broken, you can't repair it out in the foreign country. It has to come back, even if it's broken, to the US. And then if they fix it, they can send the same part out, but they can't replace it with something else. So it has to be exactly the same way it leaves and comes back. And no food. Countries that accept the ATA Carnet. There are over 100 countries and territories where the Carnet can be used. The list of countries would continue to grow thanks to the International Chamber of Commerce. We actually just added 2 countries this year. We added the Philippines and we added Vietnam, which were 2 big countries for us, for the clients to take their carnets to. I did include a link of the full list of countries and country requirements. It is on our website. There are certain countries that do have regulations. So if you need to know, if that country accepts carnets, what is it accepted for, if there's any specific requirements for them, if you visit our website and click on that specific country, it'll give you the information of what is needed. Okay, so how does a carnet work? The document is broken up into color-coded sections. Each one represents a specific part of the customs transaction, which we'll go into more detail in the next pages. The green cover, which is considered the master section of the ATA Carnet. So basically everything on that green page, that green general list page is everything that is going on the carnet. The yellow counterfoil is a section for the U.S. Customs to use and to record the exportation and re-importation of the ATA Carnet shipment. The white counterfoil and voucher, this section is for foreign customs use and records the temporary importation and re-exportation of the ATA Carnet shipments. And the blue counterfoil and vouchers, this section is used for transit operations and functions as in transit bonds. So now we're going to break it down. This is what the Carnet document looks like. These are the color-coded pages. And then, here we go. So, okay, how to use the Carnet. When you depart the U.S., you're going to use the green cover and the yellow counterfoil one, which will go into the next page. CBP notes the items leaving the U.S. in section box 1 of the yellow counterfoil. The re-entry for the U.S., you want to use the yellow re-importation counterfoil bearing the same number as the yellow exportation counterfoil used at the time of departure. And then entering a foreign country, you're going to use the white importation counterfoil and its corresponding importation voucher. Departing the foreign country, you're going to use the white re-exportation counterfoil and voucher that has the same number as the most recent importation counterfoil and voucher. The final return to the U.S., return the carnet back to the ATA Carnet department, which would be us. So here we go.
I have a quick question, Kelly, if you could go back. Can you help company representatives on this coffee talk to visualize what these steps mean in real life? So, okay, let's just say they are taking a product with them for a trade show. Right. So it's in some box or suitcase. And if you go back to the slide where you said, you have these different color slips and you have customs. So when they arrive at the airport, they're going to have these pieces of paper.
Right.
At what point are they showing these? Who are they showing them to? Help them visualize. So maybe it's a little less daunting because there's a lot of
yeah. So I'm actually going to go into the pages here and what we're gonna
great. Okay, I'm sorry. Great, wonderful.
No problem. So so the green cover and the general list. So the front page, as you can see, let me see if I can point to it. Can you see my arrow?
Yes.
So this section here, each carnet has its own identifying carnet number. That would be in this section right here. This section here will name the holder of the goods, which is, so the company that is owning the goods, their name would be listed here. And then we have an authorized representative that's listed here. So the authorized representative means they can present the carnet to customs on behalf of the holder. So it doesn't have to be the company that owns the goods. So if, for example, it could be a freight forwarder. They would be listed as the representative in this box. So this page, the green list, the green cover and the green general list, this will be presented the first time you go through U.S. Customs. U.S. Customs will stamp this box right here, and that validates the carnet. This only needs to be done the first time it goes through customs. So let's say, for example, you're going to use this carnet on a second trip. This part is already validated. You don't have to do that again. So that's already taken care of. This section here is signed by the authorized representative, which could be the owner of the goods, which would be the holder, or it could be who's authorized to present the carnet to customs. So that could be a freight forwarder, a third party, whoever you're authorizing in this box can sign this section here. On the back of this page, this is the description of the goods, including the serial number and part numbers. So anything that will be traveling will be listed on this green page. So any items going out are listed here. So it includes the goods with the serial number, the part numbers, the insured value, the weight and the origin of the goods. And this page here is considered the master list. So you never want to touch this list. So never cross out any items on here. You just have to keep it as is. This is your master general list page. So once this is done, the first time you go through customs, nothing needs to be done on this page anymore. The yellow counterfoil, this is also for U.S. exportation and importation. So along with the green cover being validated, U.S. Customs is going to stamp this section here. So they're going to put in this section where it says the goods described in the general list. So let's say, for example, all your items are going. You have 10 items on your general list. They're going to list 1 through 10 on this page. And then customs is going to sign and stamp in this box. So this validates the goods leaving the U.S. Then once they return back to the U.S., they're going to have this box here stamped in. It's going to show that it should show 1 through 10 went out, 1 through 10 came in, and U.S. Customs is going to sign and stamp. This completes the U.S. counterfoil. And this will be done every time they leave and enter the U.S. Are there any questions on that?
I have a question real quick. Would that also have to include the Schedule B or HTS code, and which one would it be to identify it, or is it just a basic list?
It's just a basic list. We don't require, carnets don't require those codes at this time. So it would just be the carnet list. So whatever is listed on the general list, you're just going to put those numbers 1 through whatever, however many items you have on this page. And and the reason we do this, which I'll get into later in this presentation, is because you can do a split or partial shipment. So not everything that's listed on that list, on your green list, has to go. So we'll get into that in a few minutes.
Cool, thank you.
Okay. Did you have any more questions? Okay. So now this is the importation counterfoil and importation voucher. So your packet's going to come with a counterfoil and matching voucher. So you can see here on the counterfoil, it says importation 1, and you have a matching voucher here that says importation 1. So when entering the foreign country, you're going to do the same thing here. You're going to list the number of items that are entering into the country. Customs will sign and stamp the counterfoil coming into the country. Now, this is something you want to make sure you pay very close attention to. Although the carnet is valid for 1 year, foreign customs can put an expiration date when the goods need to be out. So they would list that here. So even though the carnet is valid for 1 year, if foreign customs lists the date in here, the goods need to be out of the country by that date. There are some countries that do limit the amount of time the goods are in the country. I think UAE is one of them. They allowed the goods in their country for 6 months. If you need to keep the goods longer than the 6 months, you would have to go back to foreign customs and ask them to extend this date here. Now, just make sure you pay close attention to this, because sometimes customs puts in the date that you enter in this box, which is obviously not correct. But if that's what they put in there, we won't be able to close that carnet out because the goods were not out of the country by that time. So please make sure you pay close attention to this box with the final date of re-exportation. So after this counterfoil is presented to to foreign customs will take out this voucher for their record. So the holder or the representative will need to complete this section here, D through F, and then they will sign this section. So foreign customs will keep this on record. This stays in your packet. Any questions? Okay. So this is the, hold on.
I do have a quick question.
Sure.
Sorry to keep jumping in, but how would you remedy that situation if foreign customs does enter in the incorrect date? Would you just have to reach out to them and then ask them to adjust it?
Yes, I would. You would probably want to make sure you do that immediately.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, because and we do see that a lot on the carnets that are returned back to us, that customs will stamp it the same day that it entered, and unfortunately we have to keep that carnet open in case there's a claim, which most likely there won't be, but just in case, because it didn't come out on the day that they put in that date, we can't close it out. So just make sure you pay close attention to that. It looks like we're missing some pages here. What happened? Hold on, I'm sorry. Let me just take a look real quick. So it looks like okay, so basically, it looks like we missed it. There's a page missing, but once the goods, oh no, we're not, sorry. So, okay, so box 1 is signed out, and then this box here where it says final re-exportation, this is where customs will stamp the goods out of the foreign country. So basically, these need to match. So if 1 through 10 went in, 1 through 10 needs to come out, and customs will sign and stamp it. So that completes this counterfoil for the foreign side.
Can I hit pause, Kelly?
Yeah,
Since
sure.
you brought up something a colleague of mine mentioned in the office the other day, I'm gonna see if you will tell a little story. So Kuldeep, you were telling me a story about a company of yours that you work with, and they had one item off, I think, or one item that was different than what was
I think what
listed.
they did was they had added some brochures. So the box was
Right,
packed by the
right.
marketing department or whomever, and rather than limiting it to just the items listed on the carnet, they added some documents, which we think of as traveling by FedEx or courier without customs issues. So, but carnets, and Kelly, please tell us, are a bit more strict. If you add anything, including brochures, a carnet would need to be amended. Is that right?
So, well, brochures would not, because you're giving those away. So you would not want to list those on a carnet. But if there are, oh, go ahead.
How about a catalog or something with paper,
Something that's going to come
basically?
back. Okay, so something that's going to come back. So so a carnet cannot be amended. So if they decide that they want, and this has to be before the goods leave the US. So we can't make any, especially once the goods are in the foreign country, there's nothing at this point that can be done. So if the goods are still in the US and you have your carnet and you decide to add an additional item, you would either have to do another carnet with that item or redo the carnet that you currently have. And so because you can't add anything on and we can't edit it. So we do have some, like, depending on when the carnet was issued. So let's say, for example, you issued the carnet, applied for the carnet today, we issued it, we sent it to you tomorrow. You found out that you needed to add additional items. So what we would do is we would ask you to either apply for a new one for those additional items or return that carnet as long as it has not been stamped by customs. Because once it's stamped, we can't do anything. We cannot, it's now a valid carnet, other than close it out. If you just got the carnet and has not been stamped by customs, we do offer to void the carnet with a $100 fee on the new carnet. So basically you would return the carnet you have to us. We would void that out you could apply for a new carnet, but there would be a charge for voiding the original carnet. If the goods are already in the foreign country, then you're just going to have to pay the duties and taxes on those goods, because we can't do any amendment to the carnet or issue a carnet once the goods are already out of the country.
So would you agree that documents would need to be part of the carnet enumerated?
If they are returning back. So like I said, for example, like when you use the example of brochures, I'm assuming the brochures are going to be passed out. So those won't be coming back. So those you can, and I'll also say that you can pack everything in one box. Even so, say for example, you have your list of goods that you're taking on your carnet, and then you want to take some consumables or giveaways. You can pack them all together. You would just do a separate invoice for the items that are not returning, and then customs would just handle that, whether they charge the duties and taxes on those items or not. It depends on, you know, what it is and what customs decides to do. So they can all ship together. They just can't be added on to a carnet.
I like to make a comment. This is Kuldeep. What I wanted to mention here is this is actually what happened at a trade show. The client was with me. The shipment was from here to Tel Aviv, and on the date of supposed to be delivery of that box, the box did not arrive. When we checked with the shipping company, they say it is held at the customs. We had to go to the customs at the Tel Aviv airport, and they told us that the list of items in the box does not match the list which it accompanies. That's the point I'm making. Yeah. Even if it's a brochure, whether you want to put it in the box, that's fine, but it must be listed that these are the items in the box. It just happened to be a flyer, which the person who was putting the box together, they say, oh, let me put this one flyer in there. And also it, I think, may also depend on the country. Tel Aviv, Israel is very particular about the security situation. They open the boxes, they want to make sure what's in there, but they told us that the list of items in the box must match what the shipping labels or shipping documents say. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. So in that case, you would have done a separate commercial invoice with those items.
Yeah, but the main thing was, it was a 3-day show. The box was held up at the airport for 1.5 days. So I don't want people who are using ATA Carnets to make that mistake. It's a very good service that's provided, but we have to follow the rules.
Yes, correct. Yeah, customs can be very strict. So like you want to make sure when you're filling out your general list of the items that you're taking, be as specific as possible, meaning serial numbers, model numbers, part numbers, because they will look for that. And if they don't, especially, and you're right, there are some countries that are more strict than others. Like for example, Canada, they strictly control professional equipment. So if you're taking electronics into their country and you don't have any serial numbers, they can hold up your shipment. So just keep in mind anything that has any kind of like label or number, like serial number, style number, whatever it is that you're taking, any kind of identification number, make sure that that's listed on the carnet, because they will check. Okay, any other questions?
Can you talk about the cost? How much does the ATA Carnet cost?
So the fees are based on the value of the goods.
Mm-hmm.
So it depends. There's a bracket of values that are set, and then so it depends on that. And then we also, which I can talk to you about in a little bit as well. That I can go to our other services here. Is there any other questions on this import voucher counterfoil? Everyone's good on that? So basically, to close out this, you need to show everything that went in and came back out. This is the re-exportation voucher. Same thing, get it stamped out, and they will pull out the voucher that matches. I just wanted to go over this real quick because I mentioned about listing everything. So because the carnet is good for 1 year, you might not take everything every shipment. So what you would want to do is list everything on your general list on that green page, and then you can do a partial or split shipment. So if there's items that you don't want to take, this is where you would mark it. So on the vouchers, on the white vouchers, that's where you can cross off the line items that are not going. So you could see the example here, line items are crossed off that are not leaving. And then it'll be listed on your counterfoil. So you would list the numbers that are being shipped out and are returning, or maybe you ship some out and only some are coming back. So you just have to make sure that all the numbers match up when everything comes back, because if it shows 1 through 5 went out and 1 and 2 return, now we are missing some items, and that can cause a claim with customs. As I mentioned, this is all done on the white voucher. Do not cross off anything on your green general list master page, because customs will not accept that.
Sorry, another quick question. What happens if you intend to bring the product back, but you're able to sell it overseas? So like at the boat show, they bring a boat to display and show, hoping to sell it, but they may not. What happens if they actually do sell it? Is there a penalty towards that, or do you have to go through the process of then actually importing it?
So what you would do, so there's not a penalty on the actual carnet document itself. However, you would have, so the carnet is meant for temporary import, export. So whatever goes out should come back. But in the case that something is sold, you would have to go back to customs, provide them with a invoice showing that what items were sold on the carnet. On that invoice, make sure that you reference the carnet number, and then customs will most likely at that point tell you what is owed for duties and taxes. If the duties and taxes are paid at that time, then they will make sure that they note that on the actual carnet document. Anything that you have that shows that the duties and taxes were paid, that the goods were sold, you have to reference the items exactly the way that they are on the general list and reference the carnet number. And then just include those documents when you return the carnet back to us. Because what happens is my team returns, when the carnets are returned back, my team reviews them and looks for all the complete stamps. So if it shows the goods went out and never came back, we need proof showing what happened to them. Gotcha. And like I said, the most important thing is make sure that all the documents reference the carnet number and the items exactly the way that they are listed on the carnet.
And you would put that on the commercial invoice?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
No problem. So this is basically so if you don't do that, you don't have any proof, then that's where this claim comes in. So the claims, what is a claim? It's good for goods that are not re-exported from an ATA Carnet country within 1 year. The carnet documents are not properly validated by customs inspectors when coming into or leaving the United States or another country. And then improper description of the goods or merchandise listed on the general list of the ATA Carnet document, which we kind of covered all of that already. So again, make sure anytime the goods go in that they are stamped back out. If they're not coming back, we need some sort of proof why the goods didn't come back. So paid duties and taxes, or sold an invoice showing that the goods were sold, referencing the goods exactly as they are on the general list, and the carnet number.
Kelly, one of our participants has a question that touched on duties as well. So I think, David, can you go ahead and chime in?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks. Hi, Kelly. Yeah, I can take this one later offline, but if we're a 3PL, so I'm wondering, with all the paperwork, a lot of times we do not have the cargo with us. And so can several people that are actually going, let's say, to a trade show in Panama, can they take care of this paperwork and then bring it back? And then the other question I could take offline is, if they don't participate, I believe we spoke about that, like in Panama, do you actually pay the duties there and then bring it back, pay duty, then hopefully get a refund and file for it?
Okay, so your first question, in that represented by box, there could be multiple authorized representatives listed. So there could
Right.
be someone handling the shipment on the US side and someone else handling it on the foreign side. And so they could all be listed in that box. If for some reason the shipper changes, because in the box it'll have the name of whatever is listed on the application, and then it says or any other authorized representative. So let's say, for example, you're listed as an authorized rep and now they want to use someone else and they're not listed on there. That customer has to either have a power of attorney from the holder or a letter on their letterhead stating that they are authorizing them to use the Carnet on their behalf. So you can change authorized reps even though they're not listed in the box, or anyone who is in that box is authorized to use the Carnet, and it can be multiple companies or people.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's excellent. Then the other part of duties, I can take it just in the essence of time, whether we pay if they don't participate and then try to get a refund.
So yeah, so the duties and taxes, if you don't have a Carnet, if it's going into a non-Carnet country, you have the option to do a temporary import bond in a non-Carnet country. And the difference between, and I should probably say this, the difference between a temporary import bond and a Carnet, the temporary import bond would save you on the duties and taxes as well. However, it needs to be done in every single country it goes into, where Carnet covers all Carnet countries. So if it's a non-Carnet country, you could try to do a temporary import bond, or you would have to pay the duties and taxes. And then as far as a refund, that would be done through customs.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Of course. Any other questions?
Kelly, I have a question, and maybe related to what David said about being a freight forwarder. When our companies, our exporters in North Carolina, book a shipment and they've got a Carnet, let's say I've got a high value item, I'm trying to avoid duties, taxes, and fees, and we have a lot of people who have equipment, electronic equipment, like Kuldeep's clients. We may have drones. I guess we could have jewelry, or lots of pharma, other equipment that's very high value. Would you have to tell the freight forwarder that this is moving by Carnet and coordinate between your organization, your company, and the freight forwarder so they would have the physical documents with the cargo?
Yeah, so you would definitely want to let them know that there is a Carnet present with the goods, because not a lot of times, but there are times where they don't know and they just go through customs and they don't present the Carnet. Obviously the Carnet is a physical document. Once we issue the Carnet, we can send it to whoever applied for the Carnet, or we can send it directly to your freight forwarder. It just has to be someone that's in the US. It has to be because obviously the goods need to be stamped out of the US first. So we can send it to them if you like. But yes, I would definitely let them know that there is a Carnet presence so they are aware. And we do have sample Carnets, which we can include with the Carnet document, which will show them the breakdown of who needs to sign what, like as far as customs goes. And that can help them. I would say a lot of the freight forwarders they are familiar, not all of them, but most of them are familiar with a Carnet or taking it through customs, but definitely let them know.
And this is Melissa again. I'm going to chime in with kind of the framing the risk mitigation or risk evaluation for companies that have items of a lesser value. And if they are weighing how much it would cost and the documentation and process evaluation compared to, hey, I'm just at the airport and I've got this item in my bag and I'm taking it to the trade show just to show this smaller profile, not horrendously expensive. So, maybe a penalty amount might be lesser compared to a boat.
Right.
And, I've had companies that I work with ask me about that. They're like, well, what happens if I just continue to do what I've been doing, which is, hey, I've got this briefcase, with my medical equipment that I just show people, and then I take it on the plane. It's my carry-on, and I go back. So from a risk evaluation standpoint, both financial or other, does anyone have comments on weighing decisions? Because when my companies hear about the extra documentation, they're wondering if it, is truly something that they need to pursue.
I like to make one comment. There was a slide earlier, what items cannot be shipped via a carnet. Since I used to cover the defense sector, explosives, arms, ammunitions, I believe cannot be shipped with the carnet.
Correct.
Yeah, thanks. Because there may be some attendees who cover the defense sector, I thought I just mention that.
Yeah, that is correct. But I will add to, to the benefits of the carnet, even if it's a smaller value of goods, price wise, if you put that aside and you think of the convenience of having the carnet, it definitely helps you go through customs easier than if you don't have one. So that's also a benefit to have the carnet. And if you're traveling from country to country, you're going to pay duties and taxes in each country that you go to. So even if it's a smaller value, it still could add up. But it also makes, like I said, the transition going through customs a lot easier than if you didn't have one.
Thank you for mentioning that, Kelly, because we do have trade missions in which companies may, go between several different European countries, for example, with us, or several Latin American countries, where there can be some very high duties and taxes, and not all prototypes and samples can fit in luggage. And as far as your question, Melissa, about risk, I have to put on my trade compliance hat here and say that it's really not the proper way to take items from country to country. It is not a best practice, and it is not what customs agencies around the world want you to do. They want you to declare when you're taking goods for business purposes, you really should be stating that you have these. And I recommend to my clients, even if you're not getting a carnet, at least have an invoice with you, whether your items are in your carry-on or in your bags. And it's a good thing to have, and it's best practice to let the customs agencies know what you're carrying with you. And if you don't, at least you have the paperwork.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, ladies. Because it definitely is something that with these shared delegation booths, I've been getting questions about, because there's not a lot of room to take something large, and so they're kind of putting it on their person as they travel. But I did have a kind of a funny joke with one of my companies, because they were thinking about taking a leg that is very high technology, looks like human tissue, and has, of course, properties where it could show bleeding. So very high tech. But I said, hey, if you're traveling with a leg, you're going to get noticed, is what I told them. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Kelly, can you give us an example of a cost of an item versus what the carnet cost in relation to the value of the products that's traveling across borders?
So
And it doesn't have to be exact numbers.
Okay, so like what the carnet would cost based on, is that what you're asking?
Yes, I think you mentioned that the value of the carnet, or the cost of the carnet, is dependent upon the value of the goods.
Correct. Let's see. Let me pull up for an example. Whoop. My mouse is out of control. Hold on. Okay. So let's say for example, I just want to pull up the bracket real quick.
I do want to add one more thing about risk. I will say that if items are confiscated for lack of proper documentation, either because check bags are scanned or they're seen in a carry-on bag, you're going to end up with a situation like Kuldeep's client had, where part of the trade show, or maybe the entire trade show, as Blake, you and I experienced in Chile, the client did not have access to their goods. They just didn't have the samples to show any prospective buyers. So I'd say that's a big risk. You could be risking sales.
That's a very, very, very clear risk. So you're saying that, let's say I have a company and they have this like briefcase with something in it, and someone notices, hey, they understand what it's for. They could actually prevent them from taking it into the country if they do not have an ATA Carnet.
If they don't have
They
documentation.
don't have documentation.
And that a Carnet obviously would be the perfect documentation to have.
So I pulled up our Carnet fees so you can see here. This is what it's based off of. So the general list, there's brackets. So depending on what this is here, that's where your fees come in, so your basic fee. And then I'll talk about a few of the other things later, services that we offer.
Thank you. It looks like the fee started at about $255. So very reasonable business cost, I would say, for most companies.
Yes. And then there are other things that we can add on to your to the Carnet. So for example, all Carnets require a bond, which we have our own surety team here at Roanoke. So we can issue the bonds for you. The way that the bond is calculated. So the bond is a security deposit. This is required by the U.S. Council for International Business. So basically, if there is a claim issued on your Carnet, this bond we know will cover the amount if your holder is unable to pay U.S. Customs the fee. The way the bond amount is calculated, it's 40% of your value of goods, but then we charge you a 1% premium. So, we can figure out the calculation, say it's 50,000, 40% of that, and then you would do the premium at 1%. The bond is, and I will add, the bond is not refundable because we are just charging a premium and not the complete bond amount. And then we'll go into the other services that we do provide as well. Just a few more things on the avoiding a claim, that make sure all your counterfoils are stamped. If you are not able to get your counterfoil stamped properly or the Carnet stamped back into the U.S., a certificate of disposition is something important to know. So you would get that through U.S. Customs. So let's say, for example, the goods were not stamped out of the foreign country. It was not stamped back into the U.S. Go to U.S. Customs, get the certificate of disposition, reference the Carnet number. This is proof that the goods returned back into the U.S. If the goods are stolen, a police report. Again, referencing the Carnet number and the items that were on that were stolen. Another thing is extending an ATA Carnet, which I'll talk about in a minute, because the Carnet is valid for 1 year, but we do offer a replacement Carnet, which I will talk about. And the most important thing is keep copies or photos of your Carnet. So this is something we definitely suggest. So every time you go through customs, maybe take a picture of the counterfoil if it's stamped. So if the Carnet is lost, at least you have some documentation showing that the Carnet was stamped at some point. And then, of course, if you have any problems with your Carnet or trying to resolve a claim, I have a full claims team that will help with that. So you can reach out to us. Okay, so here's the additional services. The Carnet bond, which I just mentioned, a bond is required for all ATA Carnets. We charge it's 40% of the value of goods, and then you pay that premium of 1%. If you did not want to issue the bond through us, you would have to provide your own bond. So if you want it all in one package, then do the Carnet bond with us. It's all done when we issue the Carnet, and then that's done. Additional counterfoils, additional sets. So basically, let's say you apply for your Carnet, and right now you know you're going to 2 countries. So you apply for 2 countries. And then somewhere within the year, you decide you want to travel again. Well, now you don't have any more counterfoils because you used them all, but the Carnet is still valid. The goods are still the same. You can go on our website and apply for additional sets. So you could add on countries to the Carnet document. A duplicate Carnet. So this is if your Carnet is lost, stolen, or damaged. So if you're in the foreign country and your Carnet is now missing, you want to apply for a duplicate Carnet. The duplicate will take the place of the missing Carnet, and you would just continue to use it until you're back into the US. Along with the duplicate Carnet, we offer what's called lost document coverage. It's $35. You apply for it when you apply for your original Carnet. And basically what that does, it covers the cost of the duplicate Carnet. So let's say, for example, you don't get lost document coverage. You lose the Carnet, you have to apply for a duplicate. Now you're paying your fees all over again. But if you get the lost document coverage, you pay the $35 up front. And the only thing that we charge for the duplicate is for us to send it to you. So the shipping charge of like $20. So it's kind of a no-brainer to kind of get the lost document coverage. It's a good value to have to your Carnet. The replacement Carnet, which is the extension. So let's say, for example, your goods are in Germany. It's about a month before the Carnet is expiring. You know you have to stay there longer than that. You got maybe another show that got added, or the goods are still there for testing. They're not ready to come back by the time the Carnet expires. So you can go on the website and request what is called a replacement Carnet. This is an extension. So it is a brand new Carnet that we link to the original Carnet, and it allows your goods to stay in that foreign country for up to another year. So that's basically 2 years you're allowed to keep the goods in that foreign country. Now, not all countries accept the replacement Carnet, so reach out to us when you get to that point. We request a month before because some of them do require approval from the U.S. Consul, some countries. And if they don't accept Carnets, at least we can give you that option to get the goods back before the Carnet expires. And then the last thing we offer is cargo insurance. This covers the goods themselves. So they cover the goods if they're lost, stolen, or damaged. And the coverage starts from the time the goods leave the U.S. So as soon as it takes off from the U.S., the plane takes off, or you leave out of the U.S., it is covered from there. It is covered during transit. It is covered during storage. The only time the cargo insurance does not cover the goods is while it's in use. So let's say, for example, film equipment. If it's just sitting there, waiting for, the show to start and it gets knocked over and broken, it's covered. But if it's actually in use and you drop the camera, it is not covered by the cargo insurance. So
what about inland freight?
It is covered. It will be covered at that point.
Okay, so it doesn't matter about the Incoterm?
No.
No, okay.
Any questions on the additional services? Okay. And then how do you apply for a Carnet? You would go to our website, Carnets Online, fill out an application, or if you guys want to reach out to me directly and send me the company name, the person's contact information, so name, phone number, address, email address, I can get that set up for you, or you could just go on our website and fill out that short application, and then we will get that set up for you. And then once you receive your login, you can start your application. I have a team of 4 people, 5 including myself, who can help you through the process of applying for the Carnet, going through the steps. That's what we're here for, so you can reach out to us. And that's it. That's all I have. Any questions?
Great. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Of course.
The timing was impeccable. We do have a couple of minutes. Any last minute questions?
Oh, yes, I do have a question. Hi.
Dave?
We typically we travel a lot overseas and we take along with us laboratory equipment which sometimes have high value.
Mhm.
We've never been, I think in my 10 years at this company, I think I've only been asked once about a carnet coming in through JFK Airport. We've never really had an issue. Obviously, we want to minimize risk in the future. But we usually carry our items with us on the airport, like Melissa was describing with a lot of her
Mhm.
clients. That yellow export form, where would we
Yes.
get that stamped at the airport? We would have to
So
go
you would have to go through customs.
because well, so we'd have to go see the customs and get that stamped at the customs desk.
You would have to get stamped at the customs desk. You could see sometimes there are some locations that will stamp the carnet prior to the goods leaving. So if there's like a customs office that is near you, or if it's big items, sometimes they have inspectors that'll come out. You would just have to contact the customs office that's closest to you and see if that's an option. Otherwise, if you're doing it through the airport, you would just have to go to a customs agent, tell them you have a carnet, and then they would stamp the goods, stamp the carnet. Sometimes they'll look at all the goods, sometimes they will not. That's why it's very important to make sure that you put in like the number of pieces that are going, because if you're taking a partial shipment or a split shipment and you don't write that down, customs is going to stamp, and customs will look at the items that are there. They can stamp all the items out. And now when you get into the foreign country or out of the foreign country and they're looking for all those pieces, you don't have them because you never sent them off. So it all depends on if custom wants to actually look at the items in each one individually, or sometimes they just stamp the carnet. But yeah, you would just go through customs, tell them you have a carnet, and then they'll do what they need to do as far as stamping the carnet and reviewing the items that are there.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Hi, Kelly. It's David LaRusso. I have another question.
Sure.
And thanks. This is really great. On behalf of our clients, because like I said, we're a 3PL, we handle the
Mhm.
shipping and logistics. So would you all be able to effectively or seamlessly, on behalf of our clients, help us fill out that? Because I'm wondering about the turnaround time.
Oh, sure. So let me say this. So first of all, the carnet can be applied. You could apply for the carnet on behalf of your customer as a third party. The carnet will be in your customer's name and all responsibility would be on them, but you can fill out the application on their behalf. So a freight forwarder, customs broker, third party can apply on behalf of their client, or the client could come directly to us. Turnaround time typically is standard is 2 business days, and rush processing is 1 business day.
Oh, that's great. That's very reasonable. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's fabulous. Yeah, I've had inquiries about that and had past clients that complained when they shipped stuff without us, and then they called us in problem because they're coming back in the US and had to pay duties. I said, sorry, you got to take care of that before you leave.
Yeah, yeah. And if you want to reach out to me directly, I can get you set up.
Mhm.
Because then if you have multiple clients that you're doing this for, you'll have your account set up and ready to go. And then I can send you, we have like a template, and I can send this to anyone if they're giving this to their clients, a template of what's needed on the carnet, so you can get that information from them before you even start the application.
Fabulous. Thank you. Yeah, because some of the clients, like you said, they'll be in one country, they'll go to another, and they're traveling
Mhm.
kind of like on the road, and then eventually they'll come back to the US.
Uh-huh. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So the carnet would be perfect for them.
Yeah. And lastly, do you handle any ITAR stuff?
We do not.
Yeah.
That is all done. Yeah, that's separate from the carnet. So
Yeah.
if there are any items that are ITAR or CITES, the license are still required. That the carnet does not take the place of that.
Yeah. Okay, great. But you could still do a temporary input
Of course.
bond. Yeah,
Yes.
great. Thanks, Kelly.
You're
Appreciate. Good to
welcome.
see everybody.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the great questions, David. So we have reached our time, and to be respectful to everyone's busy work schedules, we will wrap up. So I want to thank Jerry for making this happen, Kelly for your expertise. In closing, I will just flag a couple of upcoming export education events. Can you see my screen?
Sure can.
Yep. Okay. So this is just our website. So on March 18th, we have an export compliance educational webinar. As you see, it will cover many different topics about export compliance in general, licensing, documentation, HTS classification, etc. April 3rd, we also are continuing this series with how to file an EEI via ACE. So again, this April 3rd, you can find registration for these on our website. And then April 22nd, international documentation. The details of these can be found by going to edpnc.com and go to our events page. So thank you everyone for your time, for the great participation. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you.